Hey everybody, welcome to Mr. Sanders Teaches. My name is Chase Sanders and I am a National Board Certified Special Education teacher. And on this channel, I post videos for both students and educators. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today's video is going to focus on unpacking a 6th grade reading standard, RI 6.2. So RI means that we are going to focus on informational text. Here's what the standard actually says. Determine a central idea of a text and how it is conveyed through particular details. Provide a summary of the text distinct from personal opinions or judgments. We are going to focus on the first part of the standard, so what's before the semicolon, and that is determine a central idea of a text and how it is conveyed through particular details. The second part is focusing on writing a summary, which I like to teach as its own lesson. You might be wondering, what is the difference between main idea and central idea? So main idea seems to be the preferred phrase in elementary school, and central idea seems to be preferred in middle and high school. I don't know why, but that is the case. There is no difference between main idea and central idea. A quick Google search, and the first result is a central idea is a main point that the author is making, also called a main idea or key idea. So if you are familiar with teaching main idea, you know some good strategies. Those should also work for teaching central idea because main idea and central idea are essentially the same. Here's the objective from the Skyline curriculum. That is, I can determine the central idea of a text. So I'm going to very quickly go over the lesson plan that I'm basing this lesson on, just so we can see where these key components are. So the first thing that we need to look for is the standard, and that is right here. Determine a central idea of a text and how it is conveyed, blah, blah, blah. That's RI 6.2. And the objective, which is up here. I can determine the central idea of a text. You may notice that they both say RI 6.2, and that's how you know that the standard and the objective are aligned. Now, we need to ask ourselves, what are students going to be doing with this objective? What are they going to be reading? We know that they're going to be finding the central idea of a text, but we want to know, well, what is that text? So we can scroll down to the materials, and we see what is climate change, and that is going to be the mentor text for this lesson. So here are a couple of useful anchor charts that you can use in your classroom when teaching this skill. So this is visualizing central idea as a pizza, specifically the crust, holding everything together. And the toppings are the details or the facts. So the crust is supporting the details and the facts. That might be a useful visual for some students. And then there are a few clues right here. Look at the titles and headings, look at the pictures, look at the first and last sentences, and look for repeated words or phrases. So these are text features, the headings, the pictures, and those are very useful ways to find the main idea or the central idea. So here's a anchor chart for text features. This is useful for students to know before attempting to determine the main idea, because things like headings, subheadings, bolded text, diagrams, maps, those sorts of things can really help students get the main idea or central idea. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into gradual release. And as I have mentioned before, the I do is explicit modeling, and that is when the teacher is thinking aloud to give students an idea of how the teacher approaches the task. And the guided practice is when the students can practice the skill with feedback either from each other or directly from the teacher. So this could mean students are working in pairs, practicing the skill of main idea, or working directly with the teacher. And that can depend on your students' needs. And then the you do, that is the independent practice and the lesson assessment. So since students are doing this independently, that can also be a way for you to assess whether students know how to do this or they need a little bit more practice. So let's go ahead and get into the I do. All right, so this article is called What is Climate Change? And before reading this article, before beginning the I do, I would just brainstorm with students so you can activate their background knowledge. What do you already know about climate change? Because I'm sure a lot of them have heard of it before and may have actually gotten some of their own information. So this could be a great way to activate their prior knowledge. And then I would quickly scan through the text and show students its structure. So we see that there are headings and diagrams. There are photographs, bullet points, a graph right here, and it's broken up into paragraphs that are grouped under each header. All right, so I'm just going to step into my teacher shoes, put on my teacher hat, and I'm going to show you how I would teach determining central idea. All right, what is climate change? Weather versus climate. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and underline this because this is a header or a subheader, and it is saying weather versus climate. So I can expect that we're going to learn the difference between weather and climate. Weather describes the conditions outside right now in a specific place. For example, if you see that it's raining outside right now, that's a way to describe today's weather. Rain, snow, winds, hurricanes, tornadoes, these are all weather events. So I'm going to look at the first sentence, which is also called the topic sentence. Weather describes the conditions outside right now in a specific place. So that's telling me what weather is. And then it's talking about rain, snow, wind, hurricanes, and tornadoes. I think these are good examples of weather, so I'm going to underline that too. Climate, on the other hand, is more than just one or two rainy days. Climate describes the weather conditions that are expected in a region at a particular time of year. So I'm seeing climate right here, climate, and I notice that the word weather is here, so maybe they're similar, but I notice that it's saying year right here, time of year, and then up here it says right now, the conditions right now. So that's how I know that they're different. The climate's talking about the weather over a time of year, and weather is talking about what's happening right now. All right, I'll go through one last paragraph. Is it usually rainy or usually dry? Is it typically hot or typically cold? A region's climate is determined by observing its weather over a period of many years, generally 30 years or more. All right, so I'm going to stop here and I'm going to think aloud about what I think the central idea is. So in paragraph 1, we saw what weather is, and that is the conditions that are happening right now. And the second paragraph, we see that climate is like weather, but it is over a longer period of time, like a year. So I'm going to say that the central idea of paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 is that climate is different from weather because climate is describes weather over a long period of time. And then I can look at these pictures right here, these diagrams, and it's showing me that the weather changes every single day. But it looks like right here, the climate is not something that is changing on a daily basis. So for the we do, you could have students read the next few paragraphs together in small groups or in pairs if they're strong readers and more self-directed. Or if students need more support, then you can work directly with those students, whether they need the text read aloud to them or whether they benefit from more scaffolding or more questioning. And then for the you do, you could assign one of these sections, such as does what we do matter, where students will show that they can actually determine the central idea on their own. So here's a few strategies for students with disabilities. So you can read the text out loud to students, or better yet, record yourself reading and post the recording to Google Classroom. So that way they can rewind, fast forward, they can really process the information at their own pace. The second idea is use simpler examples if you are reteaching this or teaching this to students with disabilities. You can still stay at the sixth grade level for the text, but you can use a paragraph where the main idea or central idea is more explicitly stated. And then finally, you can use graphic organizers for students who really benefit for having things visually broken down. And so they know exactly what is expected of them in the task, and that is visually apparent. And you can just use a simple one, such as this one right here. It's main idea and supporting details. And I know that our focus has been on central idea. So you can modify this, make it say central idea instead. Um, or you could just let students know it says main idea, but we're focused on central idea. And they should know by now in the lesson that main idea and central idea are the same thing, they're synonyms. Okay, so how do we know if students got it? So you're going to want to compare their annotation of what they think the central idea is with their underlining of the text. So if their central idea is very clear and it's strongly supported by text evidence, that's a 4. If it's not as strongly supported, that's a 3. And then the 2 and the 1, these are the categories where students need a little bit more support or practice with the skill. And the that's either partially supported by evidence or they either don't determine the central idea or whatever they wrote is not at all supported by evidence. Okay, so that concludes today's video. I hope you learned something useful and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day.